Jason. I'm a registered polysomnographic technologist, sleep tech, and I have to make a confession. Sleep apnea is not real. It's a fraud. It's just there to make money for a bunch of deep-pocketed doctors and hospitals, and of course I'm completely screwing with you. Because what this video is actually about is people who I would call sleep apnea deniers. This has been like, for some reason, this week has been just awful for this. You know, I have a friend who you could just looking at him like, you know, the stereotypical things, neck size. He kind of snorts when he talks. He sounds real like, you know, when he speaks. He sounds like he has an obstruction when he's awake. And this guy's wife, really nice family, says that because, oh yeah, he snores, he stops breathing, and then he denies it. He fully denies it. So I told him what I do for a living because.
Well, Mr. Johnson, it says here your wife hears you snoring loudly. Actually, my wife has ears that I believe are too sensitive, and she needs to be checked out.
And he goes into a tirade about how it's fake. So I invited him. I told him about my website. Look it up. I have all kinds of graphs, charts. You know, I'll explain all the airflow lines to you and everything. And yet, at the same time, he still completely denied that he had it. So I was like, hey, look, I have a business where I do this testing. I'll do it absolutely free for you as a teacher. So, you know, why not try to help the guy out on some level? Anyway, wouldn't have it. Stood his ground. Sleep apnea is fake. So, you know, this is of a great frustration to me when you put all this time into making videos and trying to educate people. But at the bottom line, at the end of it all, to use a couple cliches in one sentence, there's really only so much you can do. You can only try to help as much as people want to be helped, and at that point, you can't really help anymore. If people deny that sleep apnea is real, they have to kind of come to Jesus moment where they figured out for themselves that they have a sleep disorder and they want help. And at that point, they'll seek out the answers. But why did I title this Sleep Apnea is Fake and a Fraud? Because I'm trying to get these people to watch this video. Hopefully smack some sense into them. So people who aren't treated for sleep apnea, they kind of wind up with one of several problems. They usually have hypertension. Eventually they'll end up with a stroke, and they often have some form of heart disease. In addition to that, secondary, they have a decreased quality of life. Sometimes these guys are so tired and they don't realize that they're tired because sleep apnea, the progression of it is so gradual that it's not like one day you don't have it, the next day you do, and all of a sudden you're just insanely tired. What you usually have is a progression over, God, it could even be decades, where it just gets progressively worse until it gets to a point where you just don't function.
So, Doc, let me level with you. I was too tired to sleep. But you said you're never tired, which is why you said you don't have apnea. What? Well, are you asleep?
And you almost don't even realize it. It just feels normal to you. Kind of like when people tell you, oh my God, your kids are growing up so fast. Well, you don't really see it because you know you see your kids every day. But to people who don't, it's very obvious. Anyway, that's one type of person. Then the other type of, I'm going to call them sleep apnea deniers, and oh my God, like I said, this has been a week for them, are the people who know sleep apnea exists, pretty much know they have sleep apnea, but don't want to hear that they have sleep apnea and don't want to have to do anything about it. These people usually cite, they'll say, hey, this affects my livelihood. If I get diagnosed with sleep apnea, this is going to affect my livelihood. And to me, this is curious because if you have sleep apnea, it increases the risk of a large number of disease, things like I said, hypertension, which can lead to stroke, and other things, including the decreased quality of life. Doesn't that affect your livelihood? If you're a teacher, to use the same example, and you aren't treated for sleep apnea, do you think you're doing your job to the best of your ability? Do you think you're teaching kids with the most energy that you can, the most focus? I would argue no.
Mr. Johnson, would you please get your sleep apnea taken care of? You're starting to act a little bit like a zombie. Nah. Nah. Nah.
Now, some of these people, what they do, it's almost like they're trying to rationalize it to me or to their physician, because I'm not the only one. They'll do it to their physician also, where they try to justify it and rationalize in their mind why they don't have it. And they try to get us to sign off on it, like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's probably exactly it. Or no one ever does that, but they all think that we will. And one of the examples, and what I mean by this is, these patients will say to me, and by the way, these patients almost always tend to be guys. I don't think I've ever had a female do this. It's always males. They're like in denial or something. The females, I mean, they may not like it, but they get on board with, you know what, this is a problem, I have to get it fixed. The guys are like, half of them are probably like, this is a problem, I have to get it fixed. Whereas the others are like, this is a problem, but it's not my problem. And so, anyway, so what they do is they try to almost bargain with us. They're like, if this sleep test comes back that I'm positive for sleep apnea, then it's because the bed was too soft. The bed was too hard. The wires prevented me from sleeping in whatever position it is that I normally sleep in. Your test doesn't know whether I'm awake or I'm asleep. The oxygen cannula that you use for pressure, it only covered my nose, it didn't cover my mouth, and I'm a mouth breather.
Hey, I breathe through my mouth only, never through my nose. But you're breathing through your nose right now. Hey, shut up. You calling me a liar? I'll cut you deep.
The SpO2 sensor, I was laying on my arm, so I could tell it went out and it wasn't reading correctly. How do I know it's reading correctly? I could feel that the belts were loose, so how could they possibly be reading correctly? I mean, it's just like, I'm not sleeping in my normal environment. I am sleeping in my normal environment. Whatever it is, they're going to say the opposite to try to justify the reason why the sleep that they had wasn't normal and thus it should be invalidated.
So, doctor, those results aren't right. You see, the wires were too long. I kept getting tangled in them. Then they were pulling me all around when I moved. Well, how are they pulling on you if they were too long? Yep.
I'm going to call myself a sleep professional. I'm more of a sleep amateur. But as a sleep semi-pro, can we agree on that? As a semi-pro sleep guy, we have all the data in front of us. We have the brain activity. Brain activity, you can't fake it. It's not fake. Either it's like alpha, it's mixed frequency and fast and low, or it's giant alpha, where your eyes are closed but you're still awake. When you fall asleep, it is so easy to tell. It's crystal clear.
So you see on this report, it shows that you had one point where you stopped breathing for about 40 seconds. Yeah, I did that on purpose to check out the equipment. But you were sleeping at the time. Yep, wanted to make it look as realistic as possible. By the way, you guys passed.
Look at my examples on my website. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So then these people will say that it took me longer to fall asleep than normal. Yes, you're absolutely right. Any type of a sleep test usually will cause you to fall asleep slower than you normally would. It'll also probably cause you to have less sleep overall. Your sleep efficiency score will be much less. As far as sleep apnea is concerned, this doesn't even kind of matter, because once you fall asleep, you're either going to have sleep apnea or you're not going to have sleep apnea. If you're awake and it keeps you awake, it doesn't matter. That data isn't even used for the test. But once you fall asleep, all that data is going to be utilized. And we're like, okay, he's on his side, he's in non-REM, he doesn't have it. He's on his back and in REM, he has it real bad. He's on his side and in REM, he has it real bad. But on his side and, and whatever. All these different scenarios are taken into account, and we can give a detailed report to the doctor. Then the diagnosis and the treatment can be tailored and suited to that individual patient. These patients, they want to come up with every excuse as to why they don't have it. when they do have it, and that would be the beginning of getting it fixed. But instead, they'd rather just pretend they don't have it. Someday they'll stroke out, and then they'll say, yeah, you know, I really should pay attention to it. By the way, this happens a lot. Something will happen. We'll get in a car accident because they fell asleep. They got fired because their job productivity decreased so much.
The test wasn't right. The bed was too hard. Way too hard. Yeah, but we use Sleep Number beds. They're adjustable. I know. Well, did you adjust it? Of course. But then it was way too soft.
You know, sometimes it's people in the Department of Transportation that are trying to snow the test, and so they'll, you know, give idle threats like, well, you know, if this comes back positive, it's false, and I want to be retested. And it's like, you know what? Why do you want to be retested?
All right, brah. Let me tell it to you this way, doc. The test was invalid. The nose cannula kept falling out. The oxygen meter on my finger kept falling out. I barely even have fingers. The bed was too soft and hardish. I kept hearing stuff all around. I want this test redone. The results are invalid. I don't have sleep apnea. Well, actually, that's what I was just going to tell you. We found that you don't have sleep apnea. Well, you know, actually, the test it seemed to be a little more valid than I originally anticipated.
There's been a few cases where they've been retested because it's, you know, better to be safe, you know, might as well be safe than sorry. And in fact, this is someone's livelihood. Well, it always comes back where you can get them to actually be satisfied that the results are valid and they're the exact same as the test that they thought was invalid.
Hey, doc, it wasn't my normal sleeping environment. But you had a sleep test at home. Exactly. I normally sleep in hotels.
So here's my plea to you. Consider these points. There's a comment section below. You tell me why I'm wrong, and I will be happy to discuss those. But far too many people I know that have been in the same position. Look, my own father was one of them. My dad was like, he came in for a study, and he denied up and down. He said I was awake all night. The tech was in my room. I didn't sleep at all. So he actually came in, got permission from the hospital. He actually came in, sat down, looked at the stuff, his test, like the raw data, and I was able to go over it with him and show him. I've done this with several other patients too that are kind of the same mindset. Eventually these people turn around and they say, you know what, this is the best thing that ever happened. I think it literally saved my life. I can't believe the quality of my life, how much it's improved. So do me a favor and do yourself a favor, because actually you're not doing me a favor. Do yourself a favor and do your family a favor, people that really care for you and that really love you, and actually listen to professionals in the field. Try to do what's logical. You know, do your research. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Ask the right questions. If you don't know what question to ask on my forum, freecpadvice.com/forum, and I'd be happy to go over that stuff with you. But I understand there's a lot of unscrupulous people in the field, people who want to just, you know, refer you or say you're diagnosed with sleep apnea because they want to make money on another test, or they want to make money on machinery that they're going to sell you. See, this is the one reason, like, by the way, I have a sleep testing business where I use EEG, etc. The reason I use EEG is just one more thing to put people's mind at ease and to further validate their test results, so I can say, look, no, there is sleep here. It's just simply the right thing to do, and it's the right way to go about doing it. But anyway, I have this business, and people say, hey, do you sell equipment also? No, I don't even kind of want to sell equipment, because to me, that undermines the validity of the test. It gives me a motive, and it gives me potentially a bias towards saying these people have sleep apnea, so I can turn around and sell them a machine. You probably, if you've looked at sleep testing, home sleep testing, you'll probably see stuff like, if you have this test and it comes back positive, well, first, you can have this test, we'll have our doctor write you the referral. We'll mail out the test, you put on our crappy type 4 test, send it back, then our doctor will write your prescription for you and diagnose you, and you get 20% off all of our equipment. Does that sound to you like they have your best interests in mind? Because to me, it doesn't at all sound like they have your best interests in mind. It sounds like they're trying to sell you like a loss leader, this home sleep test, and then pack on top of it their sleep equipment, like their masks, tubing, and machines. I don't do that because it looks bad, it looks crappy, it looks disingenuous. And I want patients to know that the results are valid. So I understand when people think that the whole system is corrupt, but there are a lot of good people. There's a lot of good sleep labs. There's a lot of good testing facilities that are involved in this. So do your own research. I assure you that sleep apnea is very real. And I assure you that the dangers of untreated sleep apnea are very real as well. Again, if you have any questions or comments, comment section's right below on YouTube, and you can also utilize my forum, which again is freecpapadvice.com/forum, and it's free to join. Look, I'm not trying to take your money, but on that note, if you want to donate, there's a donate button there too. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's just long and wordy. I'm testing out a new camera. I have a long drive, and so there we are.